In this video, we're diving deep into the 4 most dangerous mistakes that could spell doom for your sailboat as you chase the horizon on a round-the-world adventure. These aren't just minor oversights. They're catastrophic errors that even experienced sailors sometimes make, often with devastating consequences. Whether you're dreaming of blue-water voyages or already living the sailor's life, understanding these pitfalls is essential to keeping your boat afloat and your dreams alive. Picture this. You're thousands of miles from shore, surrounded by endless ocean, when one small error sends you spiraling into disaster. From underestimating critical preparations to neglecting life-saving protocols, these mistakes are the hidden icebergs waiting to sink your journey. But don't worry, this isn't just about fear, it's about empowerment. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to avoid these traps and steer clear of catastrophe. We'll break down each error, explain why it happens, and show you how to fix or prevent it before it's too late. Some of these lessons come from hard-earned experience, while others might surprise you. But all of them are vital to ensuring your voyage doesn't end in tragedy. So buckle up, grab your logbook, and get ready to take notes, because what you're about to learn could save your boat, your crew, and maybe even your life. Stay tuned until the end and let us know which of these errors scares you the most. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss another dose of sailing wisdom, survival tips, and epic adventures on the high seas. Let's set sail now. Or keel strike on shallow bottoms or rocks, yasak grounding. Imagine yourself sailing in crystal clear waters, the wind blowing softly through the sails, the horizon opening like an invitation to infinity. Suddenly, an impact shakes the boat. A dry sound, like underwater thunder, echoes through the hull. You feel your heart racing. What happened? Your keel, the backbone that keeps your sailboat balanced and steady, has just collided with a shallow bottom or a hidden rock. This is the third serious error that can literally sink your dream of crossing oceans, and I'll tell you why it's so dangerous, how it happens, and most importantly, how to prevent it from turning your adventure into tragedy. The keel is much more than just any part. Think of it as your boat's invisible anchor, not in the sense of holding it still, but ensuring it cuts through waves with stability. In modern sailboats, many keels are bolted-on types, attached to the hull with large stainless steel bolts. This structure is robust but also vulnerable. When the keel hits something solid, like a sandbank or a rock, the impact isn't just a passing scare. It can crack the hull, loosen the bolts, or even tear off the entire keel, leaving a hole through which water enters with frightening force. A case like that of the sailboat Cheeky Rafiki in 2014 illustrates this with tragic clarity. During an Atlantic crossing, the keel detached after accumulated damage from previous encounters that weren't properly repaired. The boat capsized, and the 4 crew members did not survive. Stories like this remind us that the sea doesn't give second chances when the boat's structure is compromised. But how do these collisions happen? Sometimes it's a matter of distraction. You're so absorbed in the beauty of the sunset or in conversation with the crew that you don't notice the change in depth. Other times the problem is with the tools. Outdated nautical charts can guide you directly to a sandbank that's no longer where it should be. Navigating in shallow areas, such as coral reefs or estuaries, also increases the risk. Even with all modern technology, like GPS and depth sounders, a moment of carelessness can be costly. And the danger isn't just in the initial impact. When the keel suffers a shock, even if the boat doesn't sink immediately, the structure can be compromised. Small cracks in the laminate, slightly misaligned bolts, or a deformed lead keel may seem harmless, but they're time bombs. In the open sea, under the stress of large waves, these weaknesses can give way, transforming a solid sailboat into a shipwreck. Another factor that aggravates this risk is the boat's construction itself. Not all sailboats are designed to survive impacts. Some models, especially lighter ones designed for racing, have bolted-on keels without additional reinforcements. There's a concept called a crash box, a reinforced area in the hull that helps absorb impacts. But not every boat has one. Without it, the force of a strike spreads directly to the hull, increasing the chance of rupture. Older or poorly maintained boats may also have corroded bolts that can't withstand the pressure of an encounter with the bottom. It's as if the keel, which should be your greatest ally, becomes a silent threat, ready to betray you at the worst moment. So how to avoid this from happening? The first rule is attention. Sailing is an art that requires total presence. Before entering unknown waters, check your nautical charts and update them. Today, apps and online services offer real-time data, so there's no excuse for relying on old maps. Use the boat's depth sounder to constantly monitor depth, especially in coastal areas. If possible, avoid sailing at night in regions with many submerged obstacles. If the worst happens and you feel that terrible impact, don't ignore it. Stop immediately, inspect the bilge, and check for leaks. If the keel is bolted on, check the bolts and the surrounding laminate. A light encounter may seem harmless, but it's essential to haul the boat out of the water for a complete inspection as soon as possible. Invisible damage, such as microfissures, can grow over time. And when choosing a sailboat to cross the world, prefer models with robust construction, designed for long crossings with well-integrated keels and reinforcements that can withstand the shock. This keel impact, is a lesson in humility. The sea is vast but doesn't forgive carelessness. With planning, vigilance, and maintenance, you can keep your keel firm and your dream of sailing around the world alive. After all, each nautical mile should be a story of adventure, not regret. 3. Flooding. Due to bilge pump failure. Have you ever felt that chill down your spine when hearing a strange noise on the boat, as if something were out of place? Now imagine that you go down to the bilge of your sailboat in the middle of an ocean crossing and find water slowly rising, covering the floorboards. You rush to turn on the bilge pump, the equipment that should save the day, but nothing happens. The motor doesn't turn, the water doesn't go out, and the level just keeps rising. This is the second serious error that can send your sailboat to the bottom of the sea. Bilge pump failure. It's a problem that seems simple, but when it happens, it transforms minutes into a desperate race against time. Let's dive into what makes this piece so vital, why it might let you down, and how to ensure it's ready to save you. The bilge pump is like the emergency heart of your boat. It exists to remove water that, for any reason, accumulates at the bottom of the hull. It could be a drip from the propeller shaft, a wave that came in through a poorly closed hatch, or even a more serious leak. In sailboats, these pumps are usually electric, automatically activated by a float switch that detects the water level. Some are centrifugal, others diaphragm, but all have one goal: to keep your boat dry. Seems basic, right? But when you're hundreds of miles from the coast, with waves breaking on the deck, this simplicity is what separates safety from disaster. A story that illustrates this happened with a couple sailing in the Caribbean. During a torrential rain, their bilge pump stopped because of a discharged battery. The water rose so high it almost reached the electrical panels before they managed to improvise a solution. Cases like this show that without a working pump, any leak, however small, can turn into a catastrophe. Why do these pumps fail? The reasons are many, and most come from oversights that could be avoided. A common problem is electrical failure. A blown fuse, a connection corroded by salt, or a weak battery can shut off the pump right when you need it most. Another villain is clogging. Debris such as hair, pieces of rope, or even food scraps thrown into the bilge can jam the impeller or block the outlet hose. And then there's the issue of size. A poorly dimensioned pump, unable to handle the volume of water, is as useless as a broken pump. In sailor forums like sailboat owners, stories of pumps that failed due to lack of maintenance are common. One user reported that his pump stopped in the middle of a storm because the float switch was covered with dirt, unable to detect the rising water. These errors aren't just inconvenient. They put your boat, and sometimes your life, at risk. The danger of a non-functioning bilge pump is in how quickly the situation gets out of control. A small leak, which the pump should manage, becomes a flood if the water isn't drained. In a few minutes, the extra weight can destabilize the sailboat, making navigation difficult. If the water reaches the electrical systems or the engine, you lose even more control. In extreme cases, such as boats left anchored without supervision, heavy rain can sink the sailboat before anyone notices. That's why experienced sailors say, never rely on luck alone when it comes to keeping water on the outside. How to avoid this nightmare? First, know your pump like the back of your hand. Test it at least every 6 months, pouring a bucket of water into the bilge to verify it turns on automatically and drains without problems. Check the wiring and connectors, ensuring there's no corrosion. A trick is to use waterproof connections and keep spare fuses on board. Another golden tip is to install a manual backup pump. In emergency situations, when power fails, a manual pump can be your salvation. Brands like Whale and Edson offer robust models designed for long-distance sailors. Additionally, consider a water level alarm. This device sounds an alert if the bilge starts to fill, giving you time to act before the worst happens. And don't forget basic maintenance. Regularly clean the bilge to prevent clogging and check if the outlet hose is free from bends or cracks. An important detail is choosing a pump appropriate for the size of your boat. A general rule suggested by Boat US experts is to have a main pump capable of draining at least 2,000 gallons per hour for a 35-foot sailboat, with a secondary one for support. But numbers aren't everything. Installation also counts. Make sure the hose exits directly outward without loops that could trap air or water. And finally, never leave for a long crossing without a plan B. A sturdy bucket might seem primitive, but it has saved more boats than you can imagine. This mistake, a failed seacock, is a reminder that the smallest parts can bring down the mightiest dreams. Your sailboat is your ticket to freedom, but only if you respect its vulnerabilities. Check those valves, maintain them like your life depends on them, and sail with the confidence that the sea stays where it belongs. Outside. Your adventure deserves nothing less than a boat that's as prepared as you are. 2. Failure in hull seacocks, bottom valves. Picture yourself in the middle of the ocean, the stars above painting an endless canvas, your sailboat gliding through the night. Everything feels perfect until you hear it. A faint gurgle, like water whispering secrets through the hull. You check below deck and find seawater pooling in the bilge, rising fast. The source? A failed seacock, one of those unassuming valves that pierce the hull to let water in or out. This is the first grave mistake that can send your sailboat to the ocean floor. A breakdown in the hull's seacocks. It's a small component with massive consequences, and today I'll walk you through what these fittings do, why their failure is so deadly, and how to ensure they never betray you on your journey around the world. Seacocks, or through-hull valves, are the gatekeepers of your boat's interaction with the sea. They control the flow of water for critical systems, cooling the engine, flushing the head, draining the sink. Typically made of bronze or high-grade composites, they're built tough to withstand the harsh marine environment. But don't let their strength fool you. These fittings are holes in your boat, carefully engineered to stay sealed until you need them open. A seacock might be a ball valve, smooth and reliable, or a tapered cone valve, requiring regular care to stay functional. Some older boats still have gate valves, but those are a gamble. Cheap materials like brass corrode fast in salt water, turning a vital component into a ticking time bomb. Each seacock is connected to a hose, secured with clamps, and every single one must be flawless. Because when they fail, the ocean doesn't ask for permission to come aboard. Why is a seacock failure so catastrophic? Imagine a hose snapping off or a valve jamming open. Water surges through a 1-inch hole with terrifying force. Tests by boating magazines like one from Yachting Monthly show that a broken seacock can flood a 35-foot sailboat to the floorboards in under 2 minutes. That's not enough time to think, let alone act, if you're unprepared. The inflow is relentless, overwhelming even a working bilge pump. If you're asleep or distracted, the boat can be halfway to sinking before you realize something's wrong. A real-world example comes from a sailor's post on a forum called SailNet, where a forgotten seacock corroded shut, cracked during a rough passage. The crew barely managed to plug the leak with a wooden bung, but the boat was hours from disaster. Stories like these aren't rare. They're warnings etched in salt and steel. So what causes these failures? Corrosion is the biggest culprit, especially something called electrolysis, where stray electrical currents eat away at metal in salt water. It's like rust on steroids, turning a sturdy bronze valve into a brittle relic. Poor installation is another trap. If a seacock isn't bedded properly or uses mismatched materials, like a brass fitting paired with a stainless hose clamp, corrosion accelerates. Old age plays a part too. Seacocks that haven't been serviced in years can seize up, either stuck open or closed, useless when you need them most. And then there's neglect. Leaving valves untouched for months, never exercising them, lets marine growth or sediment build up, weakening the mechanism. It's not just one mistake, it's a chain of oversights that leads to the moment when water starts pouring in. The consequences are stark. If you can't stop the flood, your boat sinks. Fast. A 1-inch hole below the waterline can let in hundreds of gallons per minute, and no amount of bailing can keep up. Even if you manage to slow the leak, the damage to electronics, the engine, or your supplies can end your voyage. But here's the good news. This is a disaster you can prevent with a bit of vigilance. Start by knowing every seacock on your boat, where it is, what it does, and what it's made of. Inspect them at least once a year, ideally when the boat's hauled out. Look for signs of corrosion, like green patches on bronze or pitting on metal. Exercise the valves monthly, opening and closing them to keep them free. A dab of marine-grade grease, like Dow Corning 111, can work wonders, as seasoned sailors share on forums like Sailboat owners. Double clamp all hoses with stainless steel clamps and keep wooden bungs tied near each seacock for emergencies. Think of them as your panic button. When choosing or refitting a boat, opt for quality. Bronze or Maryland seacocks, built to standards like ABYCH27, are worth the investment. Avoid gate valves at all costs. They're a relic of bad design. And don't skip the bonding system. Properly grounding your boat's metal parts reduces electrolysis risk. If you're crossing oceans, carry spares. A valve, some hose, a few clamps. It's not about paranoia, it's about being ready. Because when you're 1,000 miles from land, the only help is what you brought with you. 1. Structural collapse due to water infiltration. You're sailing through a stormy night, waves crashing against the hull, the wind howling through the rigging. Your sailboat feels like a fortress, cutting through the chaos. But beneath the surface, a silent enemy has been at work for years. Water, seeping into places it shouldn't, rotting the very bones of your boat. This is the 4th fatal mistake that can sink your sailboat as you chase horizons around the world. Structural collapse caused by infiltration. It's not a sudden catastrophe, but a slow, insidious betrayal that can crack your hull when you need it most. Let's uncover what makes this so dangerous, how it creeps up unnoticed, and how you can stop it from turning your journey into a wreck. Every sailboat, whether it's fiberglass, wood, or steel, has a skeleton holding it together. In fiberglass boats, which are common for long-distance cruising, this often includes wooden stringers, bulkheads, or frames, sometimes called cavernames, laminated into the hull for strength. These wooden parts, or even plywood cores in decks and cabins, are hidden away, often sealed under layers of resin. They're meant to last decades. Old Trafford, a famous soccer stadium in Manchester, England, collapsed due to rot in its wooden roof after years of water exposure. The lesson? Water and wood don't mix unless you're building a boat the wrong way. When water finds its way into these structures, through a leaky deck fitting, a poorly sealed hatch, or even a cracked chain plate, it doesn't just sit there. It soaks in, softening the wood, encouraging mold, and, worst of all, triggering rot. Rot is like a cancer for boats. It spreads quietly, turning solid timber into mush. A bulkhead that once held the mast's tension might crumble under load, or a stringer supporting the hull could give way, letting the fiberglass flex until it splits. Why is this a death sentence for your boat? A compromised structure loses its ability to handle stress. Sailing across oceans puts your hull through a ringer. Waves pound, the rig pulls, and the keel fights the water's drag. If the internal framework is rotten, a heavy gust or a rogue wave can push the hull beyond its limits. The result? Cracks, delamination, or outright holes. Imagine a boat like the one described in a Practical Sailor article, where a sailor noticed a soft spot on the deck. Ignoring it, he sailed on, only to find during a storm that the core had turned to soggy cardboard and the deck was collapsing underfoot. In extreme cases, the hull itself can rupture, letting water flood in faster than any pump can handle. It's not just the boat at stake. Your safety, your crew, your entire adventure hangs in the balance. How does this sneak up on you? The biggest mistake is dismissing small leaks as no big deal. A dripping port light, a weepy stanchion base, or condensation pooling in the bilge seems minor. But over months or years, that trickle adds up. Water seeps into screw holes, under fittings, or through hairline cracks in the gel coat. Fiberglass boats are especially deceptive. They look tough, but their hidden wood is vulnerable. Another trap is poor ventilation. Trapped moisture in lockers or cabins breeds rot faster than you'd think. And then there's bad design or shoddy repairs. A bulkhead tabbed to the hull with weak adhesive or a deck record with the wrong materials invites trouble. I read about a cruiser on a forum who bought a bargain boat only to discover the cabin top sagged because the balsa core had rotted out. Fixing it cost more than the boat itself. The fallout from unchecked infiltration is brutal. If the hull splits in a gale, thousands of miles from land, you're not just losing gear, you're fighting to stay afloat. Even if you make it to shore, a rotten structure often means a total rebuild. That's months in a boatyard, bills piling up, and your dream voyage on hold. Some boats are scrapped entirely when the damage is too far gone. It's heartbreaking to think a little drip could end it all, but that's the sea's unforgiving math. Stopping this disaster starts with vigilance. Make it a habit to hunt for leaks. After a rain, check every hatch, window, and fitting for drips. Feel the deck for soft spots. Push hard with your heel or tap with a mallet for hollow sounds. Below deck, inspect bulkheads and stringers for discoloration or punky wood. A moisture meter, cheap and easy to use, can spot trouble before it's obvious. If you find a leak, don't patch it with a tube of silicone and call it a day. Dig in, remove fittings, reseal with proper bedding compounds like butyl rubber or polyurethane sealants, and reattach with care. Ventilation is your ally too. Keep air moving through lockers and cabins with vents or fans, especially in humid climates. For major repairs like wreckering a deck, get it done right. Use marine-grade plywood or closed-cell foam, not hardware store junk. Prevention also means choosing your boat wisely. When shopping for a cruiser, ask about construction. Boats with solid fiberglass decks or no wood below the waterline, like some high-end brands, dodge rot risks. If you're refitting, seal every new hole like it's a potential trader. And don't skip haul-outs. Pulling the boat every couple of years lets you dry it out and catch issues early. A dry bilge is a happy bilge. So fix those chain plates and through hulls before they weep. This mistake, ignoring infiltration, is a slow-motion shipwreck. Your sailboat is your ticket to the world, but only if its core stays strong. Hunt down leaks, keep the air flowing, and treat every drop of water like a warning. Do that, and your boat will carry you through storms and sunsets alike, solid as the day you first sailed her. That's it for today's video on the 4 serious errors that can literally sink your sailboat while sailing around the world. Now you're armed with the knowledge to avoid these critical mistakes and keep your journey safe and successful. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up and share it with fellow sailors who might need this advice. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss more expert tips, sailing stories, and essential safety guides. Let us know in the comments, which of these errors do you think is the most dangerous? Thanks for watching, and until next time, fair winds and following seas.